thank you so much for the invitation here and for all this interesting input and feedback that you gave to us and the opportunity that you gave us to network with all these people you brought together here in Brussels.
No, I think it was a really excellent event. We had participants from 11 European countries, different backgrounds, some from the peace movement, some anti-war activists, some civil society, some conscientious objectors, people coming at the issue from slightly different angles, but I thought the similarity of all of the experiences was really powerful. Everybody is suffering under the same oppressive media, where those of us who are trying to champion peace are being demonized as sort of people who are against Ukraine, people who are warmongers, whereas the warmongers are the ones who are presented as the saviors. It's truly mad, but we're all experiencing it. I think everybody got a lot of benefit from hearing about the experiences that other people have had in their own countries, how they've organized the responses they've got. It was a really excellent event.
It was really very fruitful, and we are grateful to you for the invitation and for all the things you do. So how is the atmosphere in the European Parliament, and regarding the Ukrainian war, regarding treatment of refugees from other wars?
So we've had really from the very beginning, the European Parliament, as far as I'm concerned, have acted like extremists. These people have been the biggest cheerleaders of war from the very beginning. People will know the first parliamentary resolution, only 13 MEPs voted against it. I have to say, even at that time, there were some MEPs who approached us and said that they felt the same as we did, that they utterly condemned the war in Russia, Russia's war of aggression, as we did. But they also believed that sending arms into the conflict, sanctions, would not help. They'd only prolong the war. But they said they were afraid to speak out and afraid to vote against the motion. That has changed a bit. Now more people are speaking out. I notice from countries like Bulgaria and Romania and so on, people are being much more vocal. And I think this reflects that in many member states now, the ordinary people are feeling that there's no end in sight to this war. Their money has been going to fuel the arms industry, yet the cost of living crisis is hitting people so hard in their pockets that they really feel that their leaders should be spending even a fraction of the time in championing peace that they are in championing war. So the Parliament has really disconnected. In the early days, there was calls for open the borders. Everybody from Ukraine is welcome. My own attitude is that refugees from any war should be welcome. But instead, what we saw was double standards being brought in. And if you take my own country, Ireland, we have now a growth in far-right elements, which never happened in Ireland before. And we have the Irish government saying, oh, these far-right, this is really terrible. It is the Irish government that is responsible for the racism that is growing in Ireland, because they developed, for example, against the backdrop of record homelessness in Ireland, they said, okay, we are going to now, in an emergency, build houses for Ukrainians. Only for Ukrainians. Irish people and other refugees are not getting them. They're only for Ukrainians. So the people who are homeless in Ireland say, why me? And the problem is, it has developed an attitude against all refugees. The Ukrainians look the same as Irish people, so the people who are the victims of that are the Afghans, the Muslims, the black people, who say you're the refugee getting the house, even though not only do those people not get a house, they were put out on the street to make way for Ukrainians. This is not the fault of the Ukrainians, it is the fault of the Irish government, and it is incredibly dangerous and damaging. It is really, really terrible, and it has, that situation is continuing. So that's very, very regrettable.
It's true, and of course we support Ukrainian people, Russian people, Belarusian people. We also are running the Object War campaign. But we have prisoners, conscience prisoners. We have possession objectors who are in prison, both from Russia and also from Ukraine. And we are asking for them, of course, to be released, to be free. And on 25, we have the first court in the Supreme Court of Ukraine for Vitaly Alexenko. So I had the opportunity to visit him in prison, and we demand for him to be free. So what is your opinion about the right to consensus objection? According to the international standards, it should be non-derogable, even in times of war.
Absolutely. Conscientious objection is a human right. I admire that stance taken by anybody. It is their individual choice, and I fully support them no matter where they are from. But it's interesting that even this right, enshrined in international law, has been weaponized by the European establishment. We saw that very clearly in a number of motions that were before the Parliament. So when a number of MEPs got the amendments on the agenda to support conscientious objectors from Russia, from Ukraine, groups in the Parliament took Ukraine out of that in the early. So in other words, what they were saying was, if you're a man in Ukraine, we are obliging you to go and fight, to shed your blood, to shed the blood of others, and to stay in that country. We will not support you. That is absolutely appalling. And this, when you add Ursula von der Leyen's Ukrainians are prepared to die for our values. Well, they don't have any choice because the European Parliament was saying they have to stay in Ukraine. Meanwhile, that changed later, but they were happy for Russians in the motion because they thought, well, if all the Russians refuse, well, then that's taking them from Putin's army. Our attitude is, as it's all conscientious objectors, wherever they come from Russia, whether they come from Ukraine, I salute their stance and I fully support it. The interesting or sad thing is that contrary to their claim that they would support Russian conscientious objectors, they have not done that either. The doors of Europe are closed to those people also. And in essence, what they've said is that we will not allow anybody from Russia into Europe. It's your job to go and sort Putin out. And until you carry out regime change in your own country, you're not welcome here. Can you imagine saying that to anybody? So this is how they have treated the issue. It's really quite disgraceful and illegal also. So I hope the court case goes well. It is an important first. I think all of us in the anti-war movement will be closely watching it and following what happens, and hopefully it will be an important precedent for the better.
Great, you're absolutely right. And for the Russians, we are also asking the European Union not to block and put sanctions in every citizen, because like this, we want to give visa C, visa D, both types of visa, because they're the anti-war activists and the peace activists who are paying the price of these sanctions of the European Union.
Well, it's funny, we talk about European values and human rights, but Europe is displaying an absolute racism towards Russian people, like it's treating them in a block as it does indeed Ukrainian people. But the idea that all Russians support the war, that all Russians are anti-Ukrainian, it's absolutely nonsense. Loads of Russians oppose the war, loads of Russians don't want to fight. Many of them have run to try and get out of the country, and they deserve safe haven in neighbouring countries and so on. But sadly, and I think you made the point yourself in the discussion today, as in this war, as in all, it's the rich people, it's the rich Russians, it's the rich Ukrainians who are buying their way out of fighting. And it's only the poor people who always die in wars. And that's what we're seeing in this war as well. So I think it's tragic, the position that the European Union is taking, but I'm not surprised because they have shown themselves to be nothing more than agents of the military-industrial complex globally. They're handing over our taxpayers' money into the hands directly of the arms industry. They are the only people benefiting from this conflict. The people of Ukraine are suffering the most, obviously. People in Russia are suffering also, but ordinary Europeans are suffering too. So how is it in our interests? It patently isn't. The only people winning are the military-industrial complex, and they are determined. The checkbooks are open for them. Any amount of money is not too much. And that's the direction it's going. So it's really important that people tune in, find out about the debates that are going on now, and put pressure on their own politicians to stop this, because, you know, you're paying for it in your pocket, and Ukrainians and Russians are paying for it with their lives. This is the direction of our Europe. Is that a Europe of peace and values? I don't think so.
Exactly. But we are fighting for the Europe of peace and values, and we are very, very happy that we get organized today. And we will keep networking and we will keep our struggle. with all these people that you brought together today and much more. So we keep on. We thank you so much again for this opportunity, and keep strong and keep the good work.
And you, the thanks is all to the participants. This was a very cooperative venture. Everybody had their say, everybody was equal in it, and I think everybody has left feeling re-energized. We all face the same problems, but together we can overcome them, and I think it was great. So thanks to you for a great intervention.
Indeed. Thank you so much.